All right, I think we're live and we're recording. Welcome everyone. I am delighted to share with you all today on this topic of intimacy, how this relates to being seated in a place of choice or agency, and how this relates to the process of embodiment. So, why don't we just take a moment to settle in and just drop in for a moment and kind of try to just let go of the morning or the afternoon or whatever has preceded you, and see if you can just start to welcome yourself to really land here in this present moment. So if you want to close your eyes and just take a moment to come inside and just feel that beautiful breath welling up to embrace you and invite you into a deeper feeling contact with your internal world. If you want to bring a touch of your hand to your heart, to your hara, and just start to allow your attention to drop down and in to this simple place of contact with your touch, the intimacy of your breath. And let the jaw just slightly open, unhinge at the TMJ joint. And just notice that we start to slowly settle into our seat, feeling those 2 points of your sit bones making contact with your chair. And there's this wonderful, vast mountain of presence beneath us that is the holding ground, that is nourishing us with breath in this very moment. So just as you feel this permission to gently drop any gripping in the system, to let go of anything ripe and ready to let go on your exhales, and allow yourself to really let in this felt sense of support, this nourishing ground beneath us. And we'll begin our call today with this acknowledgement as we settle, just this simple gratitude for this mysterious and miraculous opportunity to be here, to have this unique human embodiment, and yet to be innately, intrinsically embedded and one with this vast field of nature that we call Mother Gaia, this vast cosmos, this canopy of stars and planets in which our planet circumambulates. And we have this unique opportunity to have a human beating heart that can feel so deeply, experience life so deeply, and came here to be you, each of us so uniquely precious. So, as much as it's true for you in this moment, just acknowledging that gratitude for your life. with all of its foibles and warts and challenges and catastrophes and disappointments, the whole hot, holy mess of it. Still, we are here. So nice, deep, tender breath into your heart, your hara. Just simply acknowledging I am here. And thank you. Thank you for my life. And before I start to dive into this context, see if you can just invite your own heart, your hara, the presence of your being to light up a bit about what drew you here today. What of these words, intimacy and choice and embodiment, how that rings in your system, what draws your curiosity. And as much as you like, just welcoming this precious, mysterious you as you are right now. That quality of aliveness and curiosity, as well as what other flavors, whatever they may be, just welcoming yourself here. And we've been sitting for a little bit of time now with our hands on our hearts and our haras, and just see if you can notice that underneath your breath, you might be feeling a little bit more of a synchronized quality of pulsation or life force. It can be just simply felt as heat in your body, warmth. Some subtle feeling of the movement of your blood that echoes this synchronization of heart and hara. And without words or thinking about this so much, just take a couple more breaths into that space between your two hands. Simply dropping in and feeling textures of aliveness, the sensations that let you know you're alive. And as much as you like, just loving down into you here, just offering this sort of unconditional wave of your love to your space right now, whatever is present, discomforts and pleasures, constrictions, openness, all the flavors, offering that breath of love, that breath of warmth. Beautiful. So when you're ready, you can gently allow the hands to come to relax in your lap, and gently, slowly start to allow the eyes soft opening. And bringing your open presence here to explore, to receive, to feel, to journey, go on a little journey today. And I invite you, as much as you like, to receive what I'm sharing from being seated a little bit more in this backed up position of feeling that quality of listening from your hara and from your heart. Of course, we can allow cognition, our thinking mind, all of it, all of you, all these facilities. But I invite you to continue to breathe, just natural, deep, full breaths, and continue to feel yourself seated in your seat, a little contact with the ground. So often this word intimacy is conflated with romance or sexuality. And I think much of our world really only considers the word intimate or intimacy in relationship to another. And again, in some kind of sexual or romantic context. So those of you who have done any kind of explorations with me, you know that one of the terms that I call the larger body of the work I offer is transformational intimacy. And my experience tells me that intimacy is one of our innate birthrights, if you will. It's part of our nature, our true nature, to be intimate. It's part of the uniqueness of being human. And I want to just speak a moment to sort of teasing out or differentiating that there's a choice here in how we experience, how we receive our moment. And that we can, I think from a cultural standpoint or from, where more of the dominant mind's orientation is that we're oriented a little bit more as a personality. And we take our moment very personally, right? I'm having a good day. I'm having a bad day. This happened to me. This didn't happen. We're having a very personal experience. Disappointments, expectations, feeling let down, having hopes and dreams and excitements and fears. And we can kind of live on this roller coaster ride, as I've mentioned in some of my previous sessions, of hope and fear, kind of constantly swinging. And in a way, being in relationship to life, others, ourselves, in this kind of subject-object relationship, where our moment and everything that's happening in our experience is either for me or against me. And by definition, when I'm more seated in this quality of orientation, I'm more in my nervous system. I'm more referencing history. Our autonomic nervous system, in its more dysregulated state, let's say, is kind of an Akashic record of our history, of what happened to me. And I'm using that as a kind of filter to discern, to perceive what's happening in present time, to then project what might happen in the future. And again, when I'm in this space of taking life very personally in this way, I tend to be in a subtle kind of inner defendedness of making sure that the hurtful things, the painful things, the things I don't want to happen anymore, I'm looking for evidence of where they might be showing up in my reality so I can quickly defend against them and prepare and project how I can do something different so I don't have to feel that thing again. I wonder if anyone can relate to what I'm speaking to here. I think we're all masters. We're experts at this level of, and innocently, of course, why would we want to keep creating the same experience, feeling the same pain, feeling the same frustration, right? However, what I've noticed is that when we are living our moment in this way, we actually tend to just keep recapitulating the same experience. It actually assures that we do, because we're living in more of a nervous system, patterned, addictive level of our being. Our nervous systems are pattern addicts. And so even if this experience is uncomfortable and we say consciously, I don't want this, on some level to our more primitive survival system, this is safety. This is what I know. This is the familiar. So there's, thousands of years of evolution that assure if I keep behaving this way, thinking this way, feeling this way, staying in my nervous system in a kind of tension, on high alert, ready to protect, defend, then at least I'm going to be alive. At least on a survival level, I'm going to survive. So there's another choice, and it does require choosing. And that is the choice to receive, perceive, occupy my moment from a place of intimacy, which we feel, we experience as an experience more of vulnerability or openness or undefendedness, which also asks me to not know, to not assume just because something is smelling like this or looking like this or feeling like this, that it means ... Again, that nervous system level of our habits is addicted to making meaning of our moment and what's arising, making meaning of the evidence to prove that I'm unworthy, I'm, fill in the blank, whatever the version of I don't want, right? So what I would say is an ongoing practice for me, because it's not that I don't have my own moments of being caught in this very dynamic. I do. We all do. And there is this choice of inviting oneself, this inquiry of, could I be more vulnerable right now? Could I be more intimate? Which usually somatically is dropping down out of the head and into our hearts, more of our heart's perception, which we experience through feeling. And I often use heart, hara together, because really it's our core. It's the space of our core that is designed to be here in present time, present moment, this body, this heart, this human experience. So even as I'm sharing this, notice if you can drop or soften a little bit out of head perception and into more of your feeling perception, just by allowing the breath to deepen a little bit more and feeling what I'm sharing. Letting that wise intelligence of you that is nature kind of find its resonance here. So this essential, we could say essential descent from headspace, which is generally trying to fix, control, figure out good, bad, make wrong, who's to blame, etc. Dominate my moment, dropping down into feeling, which is vulnerable because I don't get to know. I don't get to know exactly what's happening. Can feel disorienting. So as we start to drop in and recognize I can actually choose, to be more open, more feeling, and choose not knowing. Often when I suggest this to people, they say, what a huge relief that I can choose to not know. Right? Most of our world is, on the train of knowing is, knowledge, data, facts. That's what makes you a worthy human being. So this permission to not know and to be present and to feel and to experience and allow the direct intimacy of what's actually here now. School me, show me. So this is where feeling, honestly feeling, honestly starting to register, oh, I'm feeling scared right now, or I'm feeling insecure, or I feel really overwhelmed. Now I'm starting to get more honest with my moment where I am. And now I start to feel more intimately, right? And now I actually have more choice about how to care for myself in my experience. You see this kind of delineation. Yeah. So if, for example, I'm feeling scared, it's one of the last feelings that anybody wants to be honest about. Often fear first shows up as anxiety, trepidation, frustration. Frustration's a little on the anger camp, but can be in fear too. So first we might have these flavors, these textures, these in our sensation body. And then we might start to get a sense of underneath that, like, oh, from vulnerability, I'm scared right now. Has anyone here ever felt scared? You're human, so I kind of know. So feeling scared is one of those hard ones to stay and be with, right? Because often our animal body wants to go into fight mode, or it wants to flee, or we just completely shut down and freeze. So just being able to name I'm scared and to stay with oneself, already now we're starting to go into embodying me in this moment, not disassociating, not checking out, not leaving. I'm actually starting to stay just in the honest, compassionate acknowledgement of I'm scared. Now I can land. Now I can land more fully in my experience. I don't need to figure out why. I don't need to be attached to the narrative, but just inviting my heart to hold me here, to actually let love hold me inside of an experience of fear. It's a very profound act, a profound act of belonging. Now, fear is a much bigger, larger subject. I almost felt myself wanting to go down that road with you all because it's juicy. And I will just say briefly, fear is actually very vital because it's a sign, it's a symptom that I also have desire, that I also am in touch with something I want. Because often we're afraid of what we want. It's vulnerable to have desire. So that's, again, a much bigger exploration. But I just want to, I feel like part of one of the roles I love to play is demystifying some of these assumptions we make. And again, our dominant culture pretty much considers fear as this bad, don't want sign of being unenlightened or something. Like once I grow up and I'm enlightened, I won't have fear anymore. It's part of this sort of spiritual subculture in some places, right? As far as I can tell, as long as we're breathing and our heart is beating, we will experience fear. It's part of being alive. And so we might as well discover how to make a good home for it and receive the medicine of it, receive the blessing of it, receive the wisdom of it. Now, this is true of all of our human emotions: grief, anger, joy, pain. Again, bigger subject, longer conversation, how to be with all these various emotions and kind of what they represent, how they're portals into our deeper presence. But today, really where I'm wanting to slowly grow some connections is that as we drop out of the head, as we give ourselves permission to be here, to get honest with what's actually here, to start to name it, feel it, love ourselves, create some space to allow our experience, disengage a bit from all the narratives and meaning making, and actually open our hearts to what's here. Then again, I'm free. I'm already more liberated to start to make some different choices. And I think the greatest choice that we can make in our lives is this choice to make a practice of stepping down out of trying to manage the world, life, all of our feelings, our relationships from our head, and start to trust our feeling nature a little bit more, the intelligence of feeling, which has, amazingly, it has a home. It has part of our human design is our very visceral organs of our heart and our gut brain. Largest electromagnetic fields of the body, way, way, way larger than the head brain and the nervous system. So that kind of tells you something about the design. So again, the terrain here is it feels a bit more vulnerable and more intimate. So in the larger bodies of work that I share, and why I call it transformational intimacy, is that what I see is that many of us just haven't had role models or relationships or spaces where it was safe to practice being vulnerable, being honest, being intimate with ourselves and in relationship with another. And something quite profound and transformational happens when we experience this, when it's safe for me to sit in my seat and be completely rageful, for example, and have other people just witness me and love me and not bolt, not make me wrong, not shame me. And for me to sit in my rage without acting it out, but just to open my heart and allow that rage, that's power coming home. For example. And this is true of all of the various experiences, that we inevitably are confronted with in this human experience. And, especially in these times where it's so accelerated. I don't know anyone right now that isn't challenged, deeply challenged to, find the plot some days on what's going on here on planet Earth. Right. So I want to just start to orient us a bit towards how transformational intimacy, the space of sharing in this way, is the embodiment process. Having, reading the Vedas or, spiritual textures or scriptures or doing spiritual practices, praying, mantra, all these beautiful things. they're all wonderful. And I say, great, whatever turns you on. But there's something unique about being human and honestly allowing our experience, not leaving, not dissociated, not checking out, landing. It's like every moment of opening, breathing, allowing me to have me as I am, with love, with kindness. Every moment of that is an ignition for my soul to more fully inhabit my flesh. Have you all? I just feel like everyone here has had some experience where maybe you were fighting, resisting, refusing what was happening for you, and you were lost in, looping circles in your head. Maybe you were in an argument with someone, you were in a fixed position of wanting to prove you were right about something. You were, resentful, whatever, holding on to your particular, right? And nothing changes, right? Nothing, it just keeps going on. It's like a war. But the moment we drop in and we get vulnerable and maybe the tears start to come and we feel the grief underneath that, or we feel the hatred, the self-hatred that's there, even that is a portal, an access into deep honesty. The space I'm pointing to, there is nothing that is not welcome in your human experience. And believe me, if you're human, you have all these things. You will feel all these things. So the moment we stop fighting what's here and we drop in and we start allowing, a transformation starts to happen. We literally start to yield to gravity. And we start to allow more space for our deeper intelligence, our deeper soulful, essential self to take residence in this particular moment and context and dynamic. And we can start to access more of our wisdom. And again, our agency to maybe make some wise choices in relationship to our moment. Am I making sense? I see some nodding heads. Great. So embodiment, my definition, or one of my definitions, is that embodiment is essentially experienced as a coherency of your head intelligence, your heart intelligence, and your gut intelligence. When my three main dantians, or portals of perception, three main seats in which I feel, I experience, I receive life, and I metabolize and digest my experience. When these three centers are coherently humming, meaning they're not fighting each other, they are aligned. My breath is flowing freely through my central axis. My thoughts, my emotions, and my actions, my choices feel congruent. I'm not thinking one thing and doing another. I'm not feeling one thing and saying something else. So there's an honest, vulnerable sort of seat that I'm living my life from, because it's vulnerable to be that honest, right? Now, each of these centers of intelligence have different qualities of how we perceive and how we experience and how we feel. And, for many, many years, I've been fascinated that there was a bodily location for this, because I spent a lot of years just doing meditation and hanging out in the non-dual with the Advaita teachers, or Adyashanti was a teacher of mine for a long time. Gangaji, these kinds of spaces. And I would have, deep, profound experiences of who I am and what I am, what we could call, moments of awakening. But then it seems kind of abstract in terms of a continuity in my real human life and real challenges and dynamics with other human beings. And I felt often ungrounded in being able to access those same states that I might have found on a long meditation retreat, for example. And so it wasn't until I started to find more embodied kind of spaces and practices, working with continuum, working with touch, with sound, bringing in more of a relationship to gravity, as well as really getting to know these three Dantians through various different schools and teachers and teachings and practices, and discovering that, wow, there's so much more to me that I can actually tangibly locate as a reference point of how to live and access my deepest life, basically. So I feel very passionate about this particular piece, what we call embodiment these days, because I think in our world, it's no longer useful or helpful for us just to have peak experiences. Maybe for some people, they're in a particular phase where they're still drawn to that. I don't know, big plant medicine experiences or whatever the case may be. But I'm more interested in what it takes to cultivate and develop a continuity of experiencing oneself in your true seat, in your core, embodied, so that you can show up in a trustworthy way for your life. And we can be trustworthy presence in the world, right? How we're making our choices, how we're engaging, the creativity, that we're bringing to innovate and meet the challenges of this time require us to fully be here, be ourselves, and be seated in the inner coherency or embodiment of our full-blown intelligence. So we need our hara, and we need our root. We need our sexual life force. We need our creative life force. We need our deep, passionate, felt sense of power, deeply seated in the body. That is what gives rise to genuine safety for my heart to open, to be vulnerable, to be me. There's a very intimate dynamic or relationship there. I don't think you can sustainably live your life with your heart open if you don't feel safe in your root and in your survival center, deeply grounded, deeply connected to nature, to the earth, as well as developing a capacity to love yourself in some of these, quote, deeper, darker places. That is the home of those, quote, deeper, darker places, in the belly, in the hara. But we don't really know what they are until we actually start to create enough love, enough safety to be with ourselves, right? And then once we've got some foundation, the heart naturally can rest and be its expression, which is more or less open. That's kind of the design, right? And then this quality of intelligence, it has a movement to it, and it likes to rise up and start to inform the higher brain centers, more of our capacities for discernment, for various uses of really enjoying the activation of our higher brain centers. And again, this is a much longer, bigger conversation, but there's a point where we're so grounded and rooted and have ourselves with so much love and safety that our core is now generating all of this potency, life force that's just circulating up into the brain and then starts to come back around the other way, start to feel more of our descending current. One of the things I've noticed in my practice with people that I work with, my clients, is that often they're folks kind of like me, and that they've been on more of an ascension journey. They've been on the journey of waking up to what I am, often at a cost of a denial of my human reality. And now they're interested. Maybe they've had some peak awakenings, but now they're interested in that descending current of love coming all the way home for my fully human, precious, most intimate experience. So I'm not as familiar with the folks who are all about ascension these days, or I'm not as interested, I'll say. I'm much more interested in this descending current, because ultimately, when we fully descend, we're fully here, it naturally gives rise to this upward current. And ultimately, as I mentioned in other classes, it's a torus, right? Our channel is a torus. So it's both. And inside of that toroidal field is a natural flow state. Another word used these days to describe coherency of body and mind. We experience being in the flow or being in the zone. So I'm sharing all of this to say that if you are someone who has that kind of inner nudge or knock on the door of the heart saying, there's more to me, there's more to my life, there's more of my gifts, my blessings that I want to express, that I want to embody, that I want to live out loud as my dharma, what I came here to be and to do, then I offer you to, take a deeper look at what I'm offering, because basically it is a space, it is a container to support you in exactly that, in doing the inner work to allow whatever needs to unwind in your system so that there is a coherency and a clarity in your central axis, so you can really tap in to what's yours, right? And start to have the vulnerable courage to really bring it through and start to let it reveal itself like a child. What is this inner child that wants to, what form does it want to take? So this is a very natural, creative process. And yet sometimes our most natural creative process, in other words, the creative process that is only mine, that is only yours, each of us, what is ours to do, is very vulnerable, right? All the stuff comes up, all the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, because we're on our edge. There's no one else that can tell us how to do it, how to be us. And yet it's that edge that is our greatest fulfillment and satisfaction that we seek. So in this new container that I have right now that I've been speaking to for the last couple of weeks, the core embodiment practice itself is a practice that we learn that I don't share in any other container, because it's very potent, and it requires a commitment to really show up and follow it all the way through, because it will activate what's called the Kundalini, or this upward rising current, and it will create the space for this descending current to make its full loop. And we start to lean in and orient towards what is that big Dharma dream I have yet to live out loud? What is mine that still wants to be embodied and expressed? So it's a container that's also unique in nurturing that and creating safety for people to have some support around being celebrated, basically, in their own creative process. So those are two unique components, and they're my response, right? They're my particular embodied Dharma current offering in relationship to the larger global field, and that I feel all of the challenges and issues that are present at this time can be addressed through each of us bringing ourselves and what is alive within us to come to bear upon these challenges. And that's so unique, so precious, so intimate for each of us. And often it may be a thing and it may not be a thing. It may just be your presence, the embodiment of your presence is the blessing. For sure, that is true for each of us. Now, what we do with that is also different and unique for each of us. So I think that's enough about me sharing and speaking. Thank you so much for your attention. I would love to just take a moment before we complete the call and just see if anyone has any questions. I see not everyone's on camera, but if you're on camera or not and you have a question, please, you can raise your hand or write in the chat. I'd sort of prefer that we just speak directly rather than chatting, but up to you. It's nice to see you, Cornelia. It's been a long time. What a sweet blessing to have you come. Thank you. And that goes for all of you. I just haven't seen Cornelia in a long time. So questions, anything? Maybe I was so coherent in my words today that I just landed my message. I don't know. Are they making sense? Good.
May I speak?
Yes, Cornelia. Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Sometimes when I have my mic set in, I can't hear. Try speaking.
Okay, testing. Speaking.
I don't know what this is. Okay, I'm going to take my mic off. Okay, now I think I can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? No? Yep. Okay. Super. With so many things that you spoke to, for me, that it so much landed and resonated or spoke to sensations, feelings, thoughts that have been in movement in me. And I feel like my system is it fell and it's working and integrating. So I don't have questions, but it hasn't fully moved in. So I thought I'd reflect that.
Great. Yeah, metabolizing. Good. Good. Yeah, if anyone has sharing that's just like Cornelia, that's welcome too.
Well, just a lot of gratitude, so much gratitude, and it just went right in. I just soaked it up like a sponge. And just thank you for your generosity and your offerings, love, coherency, modeling coherency.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for showing up and filling up and drinking up, and I'm glad you're resonating. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can only echo what has been said, and I want to say I I really love this, Ajaya. I was in the same way as Len, just soaking it up, and I cannot hear this enough. It's really as if I have been so estranged from this. So I really to hear this again and again, and somehow in different ways, and then being able to take it in, it's just it doesn't happen so easily. Even so, I really know I resonate with this deeply, but I forget.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what it really is. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very grateful, and I really love it. And thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Ganga. Thanks for coming today. Yeah, you know, it's like we are born into this other program, right? And generations and generations and generations of this inherited program of the opposite of what I was sharing today, you know, the opposite of intimacy, the opposite of being at choice, the opposite of embodying who we are. So we are at this pivot, I think, in our evolution where we're turning the tides. Otherwise, we just keep creating the same war, basically. And that's really part of, I think, why I'm so passionately showing up in this moment, is that I really do feel that in my body, in my bodily primal wisdom nature, that if we don't switch the turning of the tide and really utilize the precipice we're on, you know, I don't know if we'll have a future. It's, I mean, we'll have a future on some version of it, but I think the more beautiful world that in our hearts we know is possible, as Charles Eisenstein would say, that's the future that we want to co-create. And the fact that we're alive and we're here at this time, we all have a particular gift as part of this ecosystem of this time in evolution. Just the gift of our presence. We are contributing by virtue of who we are, how we breathe, how we attune to the earth, how we connect with the stars, how we share our hearts with one another, how we occupy our space, honestly. All of that has an impact. So for some of us, we may have a particular thing that wants to be, you know, wrapped inside of and shared. For others of us, it's just how we breathe, how we walk, our presence in the world. For some of us, it's all of that, and maybe things I'm not naming. So the fact that you're showing up here today and exploring this conversation tells me that you are a human being on that path already. So I thank you for your presence and who you are and what you do and what you be. And if you're interested in, you know, coming into any of the containers I share and going deeper, reach out to me, you know, send me a message. Right now, I'm obviously very actively inviting people into the apprenticeship, the core embodiment apprenticeship. But there's other containers as well. So just reach out if you're interested in going deeper. And if there's no other questions or comments, maybe that's a wrap for today. My pleasure and my honor and my privilege to show up and share with you all like this. Yes, Heidi. Can I hear you? Let's see. Huh. Okay, try now.
We cannot hear you, Heidi. We could hear Cornelia, but we cannot hear you.
I don't know why. Let's see. You're unmuted.
Your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for all that I've learned so far and all the practices. Wow, what a journey. Yeah, just so grateful for the transmissions and the experiences, and just it's just a practice, and it's just learning and gaining more and more patience and trust. It's just a process.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for all that I've learned so far, thank you very, very much.
You're so welcome, Heidi, and thanks for showing up and receiving. Really good to see you here today, and recently you've been coming. It's really good to see you and see you doing well. And yeah, it's an ongoing journey for all of us. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's just like so much intelligence. It's unfolding all the time. It's very overwhelming.
I feel like that.
And then it's a choice not to choose not to, and that's in itself is a practice, to choose not to allow myself to be overwhelmed. And it's just the whole thing is quite a practice.
Yes.
I could probably create focus practice cards, a whole deck, and I think 52 wouldn't be enough. It's like sometimes it's to remember to allow, and other times it's just to remember, oh, this is overwhelm, and and then there's pleasure, and there's a lot there.
That's the intimacy, right? Is when we're here and we're intimately here, we become more conscious of how to meet the moment.
Yeah, it's just that even on this journey, I've just noticed that for a lot of the period of the time, I just felt my pain body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just in my pain body, and then it was like I wasn't even present anymore. I was just in the painful sensations, and that was just a process to gain trust that there's more here, and not just pain body.
That's right. Thank you, Heidi. Thanks for chiming in, letting us hear you and see you. Yeah. Blessings to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my blessings to everyone. Thank you so much for showing up for this live call today, and I hope I see you again soon.